Hey, I'm JD. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to continue with the servicing of a 21 joule Hamilton watch. It's straight out of the cleaner. Straight out of the cleaner. So I've got all the gears here. I'm just going to line things up. So I want to empty the baskets very carefully and make sure the items are lined up on the end of my mat here so they're out of the way. I keep saying it like a Canadian. They're out of the way. That's it, yeah. So I check all the pivots and leaves and everything else just to make sure I have no issue. There's two screws here, so I think those are for one of the plates. I'm going to use my golf voice today, so I'm not being overactive or overzealous with yelling. Still have a little leftover cold. It's not too bad, but it's still there. So I can't sing for you today. That's the problem. So these screws are all about the same size. So I'm going to, I think I need to back out a bit just so you can see what's going on here with the screws. Just back up. We don't need super duper close-ups. I've got my oiling, my oil, and all that stuff ready. And watch check, wearing the Citizen Eco Drive diver. So this is a Citizen Eco Drive. It's a Pro Diver 200 meter. And it is a dive watch. There's a side here, and this is the moisture sensor right there. If I do that, you see how that second hand moves to the center, take my finger off it, and there you go. So I'm going to try not to cough too much. This, I think I'm going to buff this as well, because it looks like it looks pretty gungy. So I think I can buff that to crystal clear maybe, I'm not sure. And I'll ask the owner if they want me to put it in just like that, or do you want me to see if I can find a pretty replacement part for it. So that's this one here, and I still have a screw in there I can see. So there's the screw. I'm wondering whether that screw is from the past. This screw is probably the screw for this. It's probably no doubt the screw for the ratchet wheel. So that's the ratchet wheel, folks. So if you get a ratchet, that's the ratcheting wheel. And I got to empty the little cages here, and what I do for emptying the cages is I just get a screwdriver and wedge it in there and twist it, and then the cage pops open. And we're going to do some reassembly today. And there's one cage, just dump that like that. And I try to keep the parts together. So I've got the, I think this is called the clutch wheel. So, and this is the clutch wheel. And the crown wheel is actually on the stem. See, I'm getting a lot better. Naming my parts. You got to be able to name your parts. I don't have a glove on right now because I'm not touching any parts. There you go. So, and I asked a gentleman online if he knows where to buy those finger cots, and he replied back to me and said, yes, I do. And that's Mr. Spinner. I think Spinner. So we'll get those cots. Are coming all the way from America. They were $9 US, or they were $40 when I looked on Amazon Canada. So I'll just pay the $9 and the extra money for shipping, which got me up to about $20 for these things. Which is not cheap, but there's 400 of them, so that's 400, and you got to have one on each finger. Divided by 5 is what? 40 into 5 into 40. I want some comments on my math. Again, I'm an electrical engineer, took high-end mathematics, but can still not add, which is amazing. All these years later, I can't add. We'll see. Or subtract. So there you go. Let me just dump this. That is for the pallet fork. Yeah, that's in pretty good condition there. Just put that aside here, and these are the two, that's the pallet fork bridge. And I can throw these, I think that's it for this. Dump it again just to make sure there's nothing else left in there. Clear my throat, ungunge my throat. And here's a wonderful T-spring on mainspring. So these are a pain in the butt, only because to get the T part into the slot there, last time I did this it took me so much time, because you can wind it up, put it in your spring winder, release it right on the money, and then it just slips. So it's a pain in the A. Gonna be good here. There we go. There's my mainspring stuff all lined up, linned up, and I got some parts here, so I'm gonna put a glove on here. I am back. And then we've got the plates here, and I'll just check out the holes, make sure that they're good. And we have this bottom plate, the bottom plate. It goes like this when you reassemble the watch. And there's a few things I want to do here, because I want to take off the cap jewels on this here to make sure that I've got these nice and clean. So I've got to install or take off the cap jewels and make sure that they're clean, and then well oiled, whale oil beef hooked. Whale oil beef hooked. That's a joke. That's the punchline to a really nerdy joke. They call them old man jokes or dad jokes. When you're 20, they don't call them dad jokes, but as you get older, they call them dad jokes. That's how time passes you by. Here is the basket, now emptied, and I'm going to put that in this box I have. This is actually a box for a wireless charger for an Apple phone. I don't think this will charge my watch, but I had my Apple Watch and it wouldn't charge this morning, so that was a big PIA. A big PIA. So what I'm doing here is removing the cap jewels here. I just unscrewed these two. I'm going to just move that out of the way. And it's funny, someone asked me why you score the cap jewel so it goes in the same place. I'm looking at this cap, and it's got 3 score marks on it. Not 1, not 2, but 3. 3 score marks on it. And somebody didn't want to put this in the wrong place. So there you go. Somebody asked me, I can't remember who it was, why you score the cap jewels. I'm like, okay. Now I might have to actually punch these out from the other side. Hopefully not, but likely so. Because these look like they're in pretty friggin' tight. Yeah, it looks like it's just resting right on top. And I don't even think a needle will get that out, even though I've got a needle here that I've used over time to actually loosen stuff up. I don't think even this needle probably wouldn't be able to take out that cap jewel. I think I got to punch it out from the other side. I have no choice. And in this case here, let me look, it is the cap for, it's not for the balance, it's for the 4th wheel. So I should be able to just push that out, which is a bit of a pain. Sometimes I'll use pegwood like this and just push down and it pops out. I'm not sure if this will work today because the pegwood looks a little bit big for pushing. So I may have to use it in my jeweling. Oh, there it goes. So that's come most of the way out. Yeah, that's weird. It went down, and it looks like it's pretty much cleared the mat. But there it is there. And I'm just going to make sure that there's no leftover material in the hole here, because it looks like there's some gum in there. Just clear that out, no problem. I can see where those 3 scratches are too. So, and when I'm doing this with the pegwood, I'll actually scratch the jewel, the cap jewel, like this with a piece of pegwood, which takes any gum off the top. And the jewel hole should be fine. Went through the cleaning machine, so there shouldn't be any issue there. Yeah, that looks really good. There's no problems there at all. And so I clean it off. I need to re-oil that. So this would go in first, and like this. Now I don't know if there's any directional stuff here with this particular jewel, or jewel setting, but it just goes in like this. I'm actually trying to see if there's a certain direction this needs to go in. I don't think there is. I just put that back down there. Now I place it back. I have to make sure it's level on the other side, which it is, so that's good. That went in nicely, like that. And then I take my oiler, and like I've said a million times here, is that when you want to, if you want to take things, to watch the screws that don't get attached to your arm. That is an issue of losing screws. So when you oil this cap jewel, and first of all look at it at an angle, and make sure it's shiny. So if I look at this like this and see if I can, there you go, look how shiny that is. So there's nothing on that at all. That's the shiny test, we'll call it, the shiny test. And then you want to make sure that the oil is, and I'm going to look at the top of this here, because I can also peg that out. And make sure there's nothing left over there. And then take a piece of Rodico, and just to get anything that's left over, like that. And then I get my oiler out. There's the oiler, and I'm going to put on, I'll move the jewel closer to the setting here, so I don't have to go 5 miles to put this back in, like that. And let's see if I can do this. And you want to put your oiler in, and then pull it out slowly. Otherwise, you end up with way too much oil in the jewel. That, my friends, is perfect. Then I clean it off like that. Move that out of the way. And now I have to grab this and flip it around. And I'm going to look at where the marks are on this. And if I flip it around and drop it, I got to start over again. So there's my 3 marks. Does it go this way? I don't think so. Oh no, it does. It goes this way, like that. And just move the movement around, and not the jewel, but there it is there. I can see a witness mark here and another witness mark. And I just want to rub it over. There, that's perfect. Rub it over just a bit, and then I want to push it down. I can use that piece of pegwood again to push that down. And just like before, it's perfect. I want to make sure it's flat. So if I show it to you like this, you'll see that that setting, there's a setting there on the end. That's the setting right there, that is flat. So if I look at it from the edge, ouch, I just hit a nerve in my wrist, that it's absolutely flat. You'd see it stick up like that. So that's that. So I'm going to do the other jewels, but I'm not going to videotape the other jewels. You just do them exactly the same way. And I'll be back in a second. I did have a mild bit of stupidity here because what I needed to do too was put the screws back. And I didn't. And you just lay the screw beside the hole where the tip is going into the hole. And then it'll find its way. So just make sure you don't strip the threads on the screw. And make sure you've got a good hold on the screwdriver. Like you've got enough pressure on the screwdriver to get that screw to make sure it doesn't slip. So the screwdriver is well dressed. Now the problem I have this morning is I had 2 coffees. So I had a coffee first thing in the morning, and then I had a coffee at my buddy's place. So just like the last one, I was able to push that out with my pegwood and examine that hole, make sure we're good there. I think we are. The world's smallest hole. These things are clean. And I'm going to look at this. So there's a little dimple of oil in the center, which I think I can get rid of very easily. Again, I just scrape that off with the back of a piece of pegwood. Fine cleaning it like you put it in lighter fluid and everything else, but at the end of the day, if you just scrape off that leftover oil, you're good. And I Rodico it. So hold it with the there we go. That's darn good there. So I'm going to have a look at this jewel hole too under a microscope, make sure I'm good there. I've got a decent jewel hole, so I'll be right back. So I'm looking at the jewel hole right now, and it looks good, but it's dirty. So I'm going to need to clean that jewel hole out with lighter fluid, because the cap jewel's fine, but the hole itself has got a lot of gunge in it, so I'm going to just throw that in lighter fluid and brush it off. But the hole itself looks actually really good. So this jewel was for the balance. Turn off my microscope here and then grab the jewel. When I transport the jewel from my microscope over to the desk, I always put my hand over the top like that, so if I drop the jewel, I'm not in shit. So just drop that right into the lighter fluid, and now I'm going to get in there deep and dirty with a little brush, and I just want to brush this off. I'll throw the cap in there as well, since I've got the lighter fluid in there anyway. I might as well do this, even though I know the cap will be fine. But this is the jewel hole, the jewel for the balance staff. So the lower pivot of the balance goes into that jewel hole. So you want to make sure that that jewel hole has got no issues whatsoever, because if it does, that dirt that I saw on the bottom of there is going to get into the, it's going to basically cause an issue, right? So let me just grab the jewel like this, and I'm just going to wipe that off. And this lighter fluid is really good. It'll get rid of everything. And the good thing about lighter fluid that I found out years ago is that I can use that on parts that have shellac on them, and it doesn't affect the shellac. So I clean it on one side and flip it over and make sure the other side gets clean. And then I just let it dry. So I want to flip this over, and I'm having a fun time doing it. So I'm just going to put this on the mat for a second, because where the dirt is on this side. And lighter fluid, it evaporates so quickly. This thing keeps flipping over to the wrong side. It's pissing me off, Jerry. It's pissing me off. Just going to put this on a piece of paper here. And then this is watchmaker's paper. And then move this over here. And I want to, I'll look at this under the microscope. I want to get this side here, right? This side. So I want to poke this around on that side, so I can hold that just lightly with my tweezers and just jab the brush into that hole, and that should get rid of the gum So let's just do that. Now that should do, but what I'll do, throw this on the watch paper. I'll do the cap as well. And of course it figures that both, yeah, now that was the right side, that was the correct side up. So there we go, that's the cap there too. I just dip that off. So I can reuse that for the next one. And put my brush away with the brush facing upward. And now what I want to just dance these jewels across the watch paper so they have a chance to dry up. They don't take any time at all to dry, by the way. They dry very quickly. And I gotta make sure that I get that I get it all like super dry before I attempt to put it back in. So what I do, this is dangerous. You have to know what the heck you're doing to do this, because this is going to cause all kinds of problems if you don't. So I'm just going to take this, and I got an air puffer, and I'm holding it with the last thing I want to do is puff this across the table. I do have a lot of I do have jewel settings and replacements and stuff, but I don't feel like I want to go hunting for this right now. So that's good. It's likely dried off. Put that under my hand like I said before, and then move it under where the microscope is. The tweezer, when you're tweezing something, that's a verb now, I guess. When you're tweezing something, don't put a lot of pressure on the tweezer. You get used to that. I was talking to a gentleman named John. I'll call him John D. And he was saying he likes to get fat end tweezers so he can, just making my chair go up here. He likes to get fat end tweezers that are fat on this side so he can have more control over the tweezing activity. I, in fact, love these ones here. These are MMs. I'm not sure if there's a number there, but they're MMs. And I love these ones here. And I got another set of tweezers that I use that are here that are also, these are 3s, and 3s work fine as well. So it's just to make sure that the ends are not bent or anything, because I've bent these before. They'll bend pretty easy, so I use them just for this. What I'm doing right now is grabbing screws and stuff like that. So let's check out of the microscope. So that's done now. It looked exceptional under the microscope. So now I've got to put on I keep telling everybody, buy these glasses, buy the double lens on it for computers and for watchmaking, and then get an airy loop to go over the top. So they're not cheap, but they're good. So you need good equipment to do good watch repair. You get crappy equipment, you'll do crappy repairs. So that's now in place, no issue there at all. So now we've got to put this jewel back, and I just have to lay this down flat. There's no issue. This mat is a dollar store dish mat, which is amazing. People are always asking me, what mat do you use? Well, my wife picks the rolls up at the dollar store, and I use those. So just, I'm not concentrating here, so I'm just flicking this thing around. So I don't want to be doing that. So just find the hole here and then push it in. There we go. Now this will just push straight down with pegwood, I'm sure. And again, when you're pushing it down with pegwood, just roll it around the edges, and you got to make sure it's absolutely flat or it won't work properly. Look at the other side and make sure the other side comes out absolutely flat with the plate. Okay, so if you do that, then it's going to be perfect. Let me center my camera a bit here. So there you go. And then this here, I believe I put witness marks on it, but I need to oil it first, right? There's the witness mark. Where is this? I think it's right there. Yeah, it should do. Yeah, I can see it, so it's good. So now I just need to put a drop of oil, just like last time. I put the oiler in, right? Got this backwards, of course. And I've got these are good. These are Bergeron oilers, and I'm using on this particular watch. I'm using 9010 here, and the 9010 should do. I might actually, this is the escapement or the balance, so I should use 9010. I'm going to put this on the cap jewel, just like that, and then I'm going to flip the cap jewel over. Of course, as I've said to you folks out there in the watch repair land, it's harder when you're talking all the time. It's harder to do watch repair when you're talking, you're still paying attention, but it's a little trickier. Now move the movement, don't move the part. And once you get the cap over the hole, just very lightly let go of your tweezers. Yeah, the witness mark is perfect there. So I should be able to just push this flat. It's giving me issues here. There we go. There, that went in perfect. And now I need to put the screws in. Like I said, you go next to the hole. And I'm pretty anal retentive, so I put my screws down and I line them up the same way I took them out, so I can make sure that the same screw goes into the same hole. I've seen watches that have been put back together again, and there's been an issue with the actual threading. It's kind of like shooting a rifle, eh? Yeah, you kind of get over the top and then you hold your breath for a few seconds. You don't have to let the air out and then pull the trigger. So I just put the screw over like that. Take a big breath, let part of it out, and then hold it as you align the screwdriver up. And if you can screw it in without any pressure at all, that's nice and snug. So there we go. It's funny, this one had like 2 or 3 witness marks right here. So this is for the pallet fork. It's going to give me a problem, is it? There we go. And if I use pegwood, it's I'm not going to damage the jewel setting, which is really nice. So I guess I'm going to toss this one into the lighter fluid too. What the hell? First one was immaculately clean. I didn't need to throw that into the lighter fluid. This one here is sort of average clean, so I might as well give it a little bit of a bath. This is some of the work that some watchmakers will not do. They'll just clean the watch and then just put it all together and give it back to you. So this is bringing it back to spec, right? So it's the responsible way of cleaning a watch, okay? And you know that all I did today so far is clean these jewels, and there's almost like an hour's worth of work just to clean the jewels, because you got to make sure that those jewels are absolutely clean to reduce any friction that there might be caused by dirt in the jewels. Especially the pallet fork jewels, they're not as important. They're important, but not that much. They don't. The pallet fork goes back and forth, and I don't think there's a ton of friction involved in that that's going to cause a problem. So, but the other jewels, not so, because you got the pivots going through. The pallet fork pivots are very small. I'm going to just get a bunch of this stuff because the matte, the lighter fluid tends to go through the watch paper and right onto the mat. So this can be relaxing, by the way. If you're, I'm a professional in another industry, and you know, this is a good way of relieving stress, I find. And I think I think my friend out there in Watchland who started a couple of years ago agrees with me because he's also a vice president in a company. So, so he sees the daily stress of work, and then when you're doing this, it's like playing a golf game. You're totally so focused that see that I almost unfocused myself. Yeah, you're so focused that that there's no way that you're gonna screw this up, except if you're talking to everybody. So just like last time, these look completely dry right now. It takes seconds for this lighter fluid to dry up and all. A little bit of air. I'm going to look for the shine on the top of this one here. Yep, perfect. And for this one here, I just want to make sure the witness marks are in the right direction before I put it back. Let's see, let me flip this over here. Yeah. There's 3. I can see clearly now. There's 3 witness marks. And they're right, let's see if I can do this and stay in focus. They're right there. Somebody did 3 little scratches, and those witness marks are just in, and there's a little dimple here, and that dimple used to be used. There's one here as well. You put a pin needle in there, and you can pop off the capsule. That doesn't always work, by the way. So what I did before absolutely works. They look like screws, but they're not. And these are for adjusting the banking pins. So if your banking is off or your watch is not banking properly, you can actually adjust the banking pins. I've done this for very old watches. These tend to be in the right place and very rarely need moving. So that's never usually a problem. Yeah, I'm just checking all the other jewels. They all look pretty good. Yeah, that's not bad. Alright, so let's just reinstall that. So knowing that the witness marks are on this side, when I turn this around, is that where the witness marks are going to be? What if I flick it? Turn it around. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I can see witness marks on this side. So if I put the oil on like this and just lay this down here, then I should be good. These ones here don't. Usually, you don't have a witness mark for this. I mean, it's round, so there shouldn't be an issue at all. You just have to make sure you put it in the right way, like that. And I can push this down again. That in all the way. This looks like it go in a little further. To push it out and then push it back in again. Yeah, that's a lot better. I think it's in all the way. One thing I've done before too is I've taken a round stake, taken a stake that goes over the jewel. I'll just show you what I do here, just in case it's not in all the way. So I grab a stake it's got the round edges on it, like this one here, concave or something like that. I'm not sure what you call that, but yeah, a stake that looks like this on the end. Just come on there, camera, you know what to do. A stake that looks like that, and make sure it just goes over the top of where the jewel is, like that. That's actually perfect, the stake. I just grabbed the right one by accident. And then you grab your hammer, and if there's any doubt that it's not in, you just have to tap it a few times. But it has to be over the edge, right? So just like that. And you have a look at it. That, my friends, is perfection. And that just ensures that that setting is down all the way. If it's not down all the way, then you could have problems with end shake. And end shake is the up and down, the distance of looseness up and down. There's a non-technical definition for you. So I just grabbed a stake out of my staking set and I hit the exact right one. That was a, what do you call that? Dumb luck? I think so. So now I have to take this setting here. Let me just move the watch paper out of the way. I don't need this anymore. And I got my oil and my oilers. There's my oilers here, and these are also Bergeron oilers, 2847. And this is a Bergeron 3180, right? They're heavy as hell, let me tell you. I had to repair the middle one, I think, on this here. So I did little diagrams on how to oil stuff, which is kind of funny. So I grabbed the blue one, which is my smallest one, and a little bit of oil on there. And that is, yeah, I can put 2010 on there as well, because that's the pallet fork. So the three of them were the escapement, the pallet fork, and the balance are the three jewels that I was working on. So I'll just move this over like that so it's close. And then put some oil on the cap jewel, and then plunge my oiler in there to get the dirt off of it, or the leftover oil. Put the oiler back in with the cap, and then I just throw it down into the oiler holder, right? So it's a whole lecture on oiling. So now very carefully grab this jewel, turn that around. I'm hoping I got a good grip on it here. And now I just want to line the movement, the plate, with this. Now I drop it down. Now I notice it's just a little bit too far clockwise, so I can just nudge it. There we go. That's good. And then if I push straight down, I won't have a problem. And again, you want to make sure that this is absolutely flush, which it is. It's hard to tell you whether it's hard to. And you'll see that this flush, it's the middle one there you're looking at. It's absolutely flush, and the witness marks are lined up again. So that hole that I made before, let me see if I can point to that hole. It's right there. So that was already, where is that? Go up, 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 right there. So that's where the, that little needle hole, I'll call it. And I'm not sure if the manufacturer puts that needle hole in there. I don't think it's the other watchmaker. I think it's the manufacturer does that. And then I put these screws back, and I want to put the bottom one on this side. That's the way they went out. Approach it, hold my breath. And now I'm not putting a lot of pressure on that screwdriver when I start, because I want, first of all, I don't want the screw to go flying, right? And then secondly, and when I hold these screws, I hold them so lightly, right? Drop them in, and then I grab a different screwdriver. See, red, that's black, so I want yellow. Where's Mr. Yellow? I'm going to go a little smaller with this one. There we go. There, and that's all three of them in, back in, cleaned and oiled. Let me have a look. There you go. All back in, clean and oiled. So I can flip this around now. I'll oil this up later. I flip that around. And I wasn't worried about when I put it on the mat, the banking pins are deep in so they won't touch the banking pins. So I can actually start reassembling the watch now. And I want to reassemble it. I'm going to have to put the barrel and the spring back in, right? Because I've got a whole boatload of parts here that I need to use to reassemble the watch. But I think I want to reassemble. I got to put the barrel back in to reassemble the main plate over the barrel. So I'm just going to bite the bullet here and work on that barrel, which is a pain in the butt. I'm telling you right now. Yesterday I was working on that Russian Vostok watch, and oh my God, I took the mainspring on those Vostok watches. It's an automatic watch. It's got like a snake tongue on the end that rubs against the barrel wall, and I had to put braking grease on the barrel wall. So I had to take the spring out because it wasn't retaining any power because it kept slipping, right? So, and so that was my issue. That was a watch, so it was a lot smaller and everything. This is a bit bigger, but this T end here on the spring, what a pain in the butt that is. Okay, so I got to get my spring winder in and see if I can throw that in and see if I can align it properly. Now, people were saying, well, once you get it in, you can rotate the spring. Yeah, right. You can do it, but it's damn difficult to do that. So let me just see if I can do it right the first time. All right, here I've got my mainspring winder here, and I'm going to just put this in the vise. I may have the right end on here. I just have to check the barrel. So let me see if I get the right end on here. It would be nice if I did. And I think I do. Yeah, that's the right size, so I don't have to change the end piece here. So all this is kind of lined up properly, no problem, because I used this before. So I just want to put this in the vise, and I have to make sure this is free here, because I tighten this up to tighten the barrel up, so I don't have an issue there. And so I just want to make sure that's in the vise and it's really tight, right? So I can wind that in. And then I usually take a picture to see which way this goes, because you don't want to put it in wrong. So another thing you can do, if you don't have a picture of this, you know that the barrel fits into the watch. Let me lower this a bit here for you. You know the barrel fits into the watch where the non-screwed end of the barrel, which is, I'll call it the nubby end of the barrel, goes through here like this, right? And this goes in here, right, inside of the barrel. So the barrel would be, let me grab this here. This is the barrel. So this would be like this in the barrel, right? It's a barrel of fun. So this is sitting just like this in the barrel, right? Like that. And then this is sitting in here, right? And this is totally wrong. Because the barrel sits like that, so it can get the gears in there, so the gears will mesh, the pinions and the gears. This is the part that sits down like that. So this sits into the barrel like this, and then the arbor sits in like this. The barrel arbor sits in like that, which means when the arbor is in the barrel, it's in like this, right? Like that. Let me just put that in. It's in like this. And then you look inside the barrel and you see where the hook is, which side of the barrel that hook is in. Come on, focus for me here. There we go. And if you look at that hook, I got the light on the camera here, so I think that's not helping me here. There we go. So if you look at that hook, the hook is on this side. It's hooking. Let me get a close up here. Give me a close up. There we go. So you see the way that hook is? The hook is indicating that the mainspring would go from center, it would go clockwise around. So that would be a clockwise mainspring. So that's a good way of understanding which way the mainspring is going. And then the other way is I always take a picture of the spring before I take it out of the barrel. So I just realized, because I had a hard time, as you recall, getting that mainspring or getting the barrel out, right, that I don't have a picture. but I know it goes this way. So I know it goes clockwise around from the center, right? So what I want to do here, I'm just going to get a little bit of Rodico in there just to make sure that the barrel is absolutely clean and there's no issues at all. What a nice looking barrel this is. So, and you can ride the Rodico on the teeth as well, just to make sure there's nothing in the teeth. You can do that later and when you ride the Rodico around the gears. So I know that that's supposed to be clockwise around. So look at my mainspring here. This is my mainspring. And my mainspring is going to fit into the barrel like that and hook in clockwise. That means it's got to go into the winder. Like, I'm going to move my camera up a bit here. That means it's going to go into the winder like this, right? So you have to find the hook in here and line that baby up. So where is the hook? Ooh, la hook. Geez, did I find it already? I'm not sure. I think I did. So then you wind the spring in. It seems like it's easy, but when I get to that T, it's going to be a pain, let me tell you. Let me tell you. And I can't, if I let the T go inside the barrel, I'm screwed. So I got to kind of stop it when it gets almost there, right? Because it's getting almost there. And you see, you get a little bit more. Because I want to stop it when it gets close to being in the barrel, and just let the pressure off of the winder, because I want it to stop. And the spring seems to want to pop out here, which is not good. Right around there is fine. Then I'm going to let the pressure off the spring, which hopefully, there, it's now in place and it's wound around the arbor. You actually have to wind it backwards once you do this. So now what I want to do is line that barrel up with that T. And this is the hard part, because even though I'm going to line it up here, when I push it in, it's going to give me no end of attitude. Because I know that it's fine like this, but if that hook doesn't stay, I'm screwed. So, and I know that from experience. So what I'm going to do is just push it out like this, and do a bit of praying here. Is that out? No, it's not. I'm having an issue here. Yeah, I still see spring, which is not good. So I don't want this thing flying out. That would be a disaster. I'm not sure why this won't come out of the barrel. I may have to adjust the pusher here. Oh, there it is. So now it's in the barrel. I'm letting it ride around here, but likely has an issue. So if I wound it up this way, I have to unwind it this way. So I just have to let it unhook. Come on, unhook. They're finicky as heck. The other thing I could do is simply buy another spring, right? It's the other way of solving this problem. Looks like it hooked sideways or something. I know this whole thing is going to hit me in the eyeball. There we go. So there's the spring in the barrel, but I don't like the configuration. Because this thing did fly around the circle. It's not completely in the barrel, but I think what happened is that this did not go out deep enough, which means this was too tight, which means I need to loosen this and maybe try again. So if I loosen this screw on the end, needs quite a big screwdriver to loosen it. I hate these T barrels. They're not. I like the ones that have the hook on them on the inside of the barrel, but the ones that have the T are a pain in the butt. I need to loosen this up somehow. It's tight as hell. I may need a little nubby screwdriver to do that with, because I want this plate to go all the way out when I push. And it's not because of where this is. There we go. So if I move this back a bit, is the plate going to go all the way out? That's a lot better. So if I level this off like that, I know this will come all the way out like this. And so I want to tighten it up right there. Like that. There we go. Now it'll wind in, and when I push it out, it's going to go flush. So I may take this spring out and try again, which is a bit of a pain, but it's better than failing, right? And taking the spring out is a bit of a pain as well, because you got to walk it out. I don't know how to do this with gloves on, by the way. I don't think it's possible. The alternative is if I screw this up, I may just get another mainspring for this watch, because I'll see what the amplitude is, and if the amplitude is reasonable, then I don't need another mainspring. But if it's not, I'll just get another mainspring. So I'm going to walk this out with my thumbs, right, like that, get my airy loop out of the way. So I'm always keeping pressure on the mainspring as I walk it out, like that, and it'll come out. The mainspring will rub against the little T junction there, but when I get to the end here, again, I want it to be clockwise. There we go, like that. Try not to touch the mainspring too much. So this will go into the barrel and go clockwise, which means it goes in like that. Once again, I'm going to get close here and see where my knobby is. There's the knobby right there. So if I pull it in like this, where's that knobby? It's still good. Okay, and then I'll wind it up again, like that. It's funny, it wants to, when you're winding it up like this, it does want to pop out for some reason. So wind it up like that, and then slow down when you get to the end, because the spring's going to want to go right in, and you don't want it to. So loosen it up like that, right? And I know I can't detach it yet. You do that once it's in the barrel, you go backwards, and it'll detach it. Now I'll do this all over again, and if this doesn't work, I'm going to go off camera and fart with it like that, okay? So I want to see where that hole is, and then there's the hole. Now the question is, am I all the way in here? I think I am. So there's the hole, and I'm hoping that when I push this in, it stays. There we go. Now, did it stay? Probably not. No hope at all, folks. No hope at all. No, I don't think it did stay. And I just turn the spring winder backwards, and then the spring's in. So the spring's in a little nicer here this time. I'll just tuck it in a bit more. But the spring and the hole are not lined up, once again. So if someone out there can tell me how to do this a little bit better, so when I turn this around, I still have a chance, I'd love it, okay? Because it doesn't seem to want to hold when I do this. So and if I put the spring back in the winder and I start turning it, right, will it wind up for me and hold? Not sure. Have a look. I want to see where that T is. So if the T is right here, and I'm winding it up, can I get the spring to find that T? No, the T, it missed the T again. I'm going to take this off film and figure it out. Alright, after a whole lot of work, I managed to get the T into the hole. See if I can zoom in on that. T into the hole. Come on, camera. Zoom for me. It always zooms when you're doing that. So there's the hole there on the left-hand side, left upper a bit, and the T is in there. And so that is good. Now the only thing I got to do is make sure that arbor wraps around. So again, I'm going to test this mainspring, and if it's not strong enough, I'm going to order a new mainspring for this watch. So we'll see. We'll see if it's strong enough. So I got to put this back and then get to work, put the cap back on, and check out the arbor and the mainspring. Alright, I use this tool a bit to deal with the mainspring. As you can see, it curves it. So you can press down like that, it'll put a little curve in the mainspring. I think it's going to stay in place. If it doesn't, I've got to pop the cap off again. But I do want to put a little bit of oil on there. So I'm going to grab my oil and I'm going to put a little bit of the red stuff on. And the red stuff is, let me see, what's that red stuff? It's 9104, Mobius 9104. So to make sure I get the right name for you, so you're not like JD, why are you always giving me the wrong name? So Mobius 9104, and I want to make sure that's on the outer edge here, so that it works like that. And I want to make sure the knobbies get a bit of oil on it here, right there. You don't need a lot, you just need a tiny little bit, and it'll ride along the barrel. So the barrel goes in like this, and I've got to line up the hook. So the hook on this is right here. So I'm just going to line that hook up. Try not to touch anything here, like that, on the barrel, and then just push down on the barrel, and it should come right. It should go right in. And then once that's in, I'll rub this with Rodico later, so I've not scored it inappropriately. So I take tweezers like that and put the barrel in and just make sure the barrel is tight. So you just do this, take your tweezers, put it along the edge, and then push down on the barrel. It looks like it's in there nicely, no problem. Now the question is, will it catch? So I know when I put it in, it's going this way, right? So I can use a vise here and just see if it's catching. Just tighten that up with the vise like that, and then I know that I want it to catch this way, so I need to go this way with it. Yep, it rolled back, which means it's catching. So once it's in there good, it'll conform to the spring will conform around the arbor, so I'm not too concerned. Just want to be very careful taking it out. So that's just testing to make sure that I've got myself a spring. And now I can take out my Myers number 58 movement holder, and I can put the plate back in and start rebuilding the watch. So just like last time, I keep my fingers away from everything and start rebuilding the gears and everything else. So this should go in pretty easily. So I'm going to first of all put the mainspring in like that. That sits nicely in the barrel like this. And then I know I got to work kind of backwards from the pallet fork, so I could install the pallet fork next. Where's my pallet fork? I put that away and cleaned it already, so I know it's in with everything else. And this stupid friggin' Apple ID thing here keeps making noises. Whenever you move it, it makes noises, and I want to just tell it to shut up. So stop making noises. Stop it. See, like all that noise made me drop the pallet fork. So I got to put the pallet fork in the other way. There, like that. And that would go, where's my escapement? Right there. So that's pallet fork goes in like this. Oh no, it doesn't. It goes in this way. What am I doing? So I just want to make sure I get the pallet fork in nicely. And you know what I'm going to do before I even put the pallet fork in? Is I'm going to put a little bit of Mobius. No, I'll do it after I get it in. I'll do it after I get it in. So get the pallet fork in and then put the Mobius on it. So pallet fork in. Should be right here, folks. And like this. I think this is a double roller, so should be like this, and I'm not even sure if it's in place. Oh, it was in place. Just like that. Yeah, and then I need the bridge for the pallet fork. Put that bridge in place. I believe the bridge goes in just like this. It's crazy ass big bridge, I'm telling you. Like that. And now I want to make sure when I put this in place that I don't have an issue with respect to marring it at all. You just turn the light on a bit, give you a little more lighting here. So that's the bridge and the bridge screws. I'm going to get my holder here so I can hold the part down as I put the screws in, and make sure that the pivots of the pallet fork are correctly aligned. This type of a pallet fork is a bit tricky. Come on, get in the hole. There we go. Use my black screwdriver here. Now I know not to tighten anything down until everything is lined up properly. So do not fret. The one thing you don't want to do is crush the pivot on your pallet fork. Now the bad thing about having a 21 joule watch is that your pallet fork, you can't see if the pivot is through on the other side because you've got the cap jewel on there. But what I want to do is just ride it up. So hang on a second. All right, my wife came in. So what I did here was I held the front part of this bridge down to make sure the pallet fork pivots were in, and I kept touching the back of the pallet fork to make sure I didn't have any issue at all. So that worked nicely. And I'm going to take a little piece of Rodico. Let me get rid of some of these tools here. But I'm going to take a little piece of Rodico, and I'm going to just dab the end of the pallet fork, right? And you see here, stretch it out to clean it. All right. And I'm just going to dab the end of the pallet fork, and just to make sure there's no hairs or anything else on there, like that. And now I'm going to use this oil here. So see this here? Mobius 9415. And this is amazing oil. And what it does is it provides a lubrication on the pallet fork that provides less friction as it goes by the teeth of the escapement. So you just have to put a little bit on there. And it's the best time to do it is when the pallet fork is just sitting there like this, and there are no issues. So that's one, and then I'll do the other one. And that's two. So those are really nicely done. with this oil. So again, clean off the oiler. Put this back. I love this oil. I've seen watches that have poor amplitude because of the interaction between the feet on the escapement and the stones and the pallet fork. And this stuff here fixes that nicely. You got to make sure you got a clean pallet fork, but I'm able to do that. And now when I put this watch back together again and I throw the escapement in, I believe the escapement goes like this, hopefully. So I go escapement first, and then just like this. There we go. Sometimes the escapement gets tucked underneath the stones for the pallet fork, so it's a bit of a pain in the butt, but you can usually shake it loose once the plate's on. So the escapement, and then I've got to put in the fourth wheel, and that's the one with the pivot, right? And I think they're going to ride up like that, so I'm hoping I'm right here. So the fourth wheel goes in next. Yeah, and that gear will mesh with the pinion of the escapement right there. And then the intermediate wheel goes in, and usually goes in high like that. Why, I don't know. But I know why. Anyway, this goes in next. Like that, and then the center wheel goes in. And I'll lubricate those from the other side once I get these in. So the center wheel goes in like this, and I get my toothpick out of the way. This is a gorgeous center wheel, by the way. It's gold, so it's likely 9 karat, maybe flashed on. So 9 karat flashed on gold, but just gorgeous, right? So there it is there. And so these plates, so I've got the wheels in here. I got to make sure that the I think I can put my intermediate wheel, or my intermediate plate on first, because that'll go over here like this. So, and that has, what wheels does it have here? It's got, I think, the escapement on the other wheel. So I think it's going on like that, or something like that, right? Because the main plate, let me grab the main plate here. The main plate would go on. Right, there's the main plate, and that's going to go on. Yeah, that's going on like this, but I've got to put this in here first, so which means I got to line that up properly and put that in. Shouldn't be a problem. So this goes over like that, which means this plate goes over like this, like that, right? So it's going over the escapement and the fourth wheel. So I might be able to just drop that down right now, right? I think I hit my head on the camera. Did you guys see me hit my head on the camera? I'm lining these up nicely. Come on, find home. I think I'm in a bit of a rush right now because my wife said, hey, I'm ready to go. That always causes tension, undue tension. There we go. So I'm just got that on, and am I seeing two pivots? Because usually you're not. Usually you have to fart with the escapement a bit, but what I do, I see the pivot coming through this hole here. So what I do is I take the screws and I put them in really, really lightly. And again, I can use this stick here, the amazing stick, to keep things down so they don't jump up while I'm putting the screws in. So I'll put these screws in nice and lightly. And let me just do that. I just want to make sure the plate doesn't go anywhere. Right. So that's in there. It's super light, right? It's not providing any pressure on the pivots. And then this screw can go in here, and there's really no pressure on the pivots as well. On this side, so I just make sure it's in but not pressing down. Just makes life easier. So that's in there, but I'm turning it back a bit because I want the pivots to be able to find home, right? And then I have this here device here, which helps me just tweak things to get it in. So usually I tilt it a bit while I'm doing that, and that way I can see where the pallet fork and everything else is. And you have to come back because I got to do a little bit of back and forth on this thing until it finds home. Usually the escapement is the harder one to put back. Oh, up, I see a pivot. I see a pivot. I think it's flush. Again, don't tighten it all the way until you know the pivots are in there. But even through the top of the, yeah, I can see the pivot right here. I can see a pivot right through here, and I can see a pivot through here. And I know the lower pivots are in there, so I just have to just move the escapement a bit, and there's no friction at all there. It's running nicely. So I can just do this and then put a little pressure on it. And over here I can do this and put a little pressure on this one. I don't think I've ever screwed a pivot up. I'm very careful when I do this. So that's that. And then now I want to put this one on, right? And so I got to put the stem back together again. All right, I've reassembled the stem. I believe it's in the right order. I think I can just drop this straight down. I'm going to put a little oil on it after though. So I've dropped it straight down, but I know that there's a spring in the bottom that needs to go on. So first I'll put some oil on it. And again, 9301. For this one, it's a little lighter oil. I might be able to put a heavier one on there, but I'm going to use 9301 here. And just oil that a bit. And then oil the center one a bit. Like that. And then I want to put a little bit of the thicker oil in the gears, and that would be the yellow stuff, and I just have to do like 1 or 2 gears and I got no problem because it'll pass that along. I'll just do it like that, and I also want to put oil here so there's less winding friction here. So, and while I'm here, I will oil with 9301 the top of this barrel on one side, and then I'll just oil the center wheel pivot, or yeah, center wheel pivot, like that. And now that I've got that nicely oiled, I need to make sure that there's something out of the way here. So I think maybe I can use this tool. I'm not sure here, but I want to make sure that the ratchet here is out of the way. Out of the way. Is that in there? It might be in there, so I'll put the top on and then turn it around if I have to tighten it up. So let me just grab this here, and trying to get as much of this done nicely as I can, right? So I'll grab that here, and then the ratchet wheel goes on top of that, which rides on top of this, which should be fine, right? So where is that ratchet wheel? It's right here, so I gotta go down like this. And I know that there's nudging involved, so oh, look at that. I see pivots here and pivots here. I see two pivots. I see two pivots. I see the two pivots here and here, which means they're nicely out of the hole, which means I'm going to put this back like this, but I'm going to use my stick to hold this down because I really don't want to lose my pivots, right? So I'm going to hold this side down here while I screw these in. And very quickly screw them in. And again, talking on camera while you do this, it's not ideal, but for the owner, you actually see the work that's required. So, and it's not a few minutes of work; it's a lot of work, and I'm just saying that other watchmakers out there would agree that, you know, you invest a lot of time in tools and studying and practicing and all of that, and you charge somebody to put something like this back together, clean it up, make sure it's running, put it back together, and they go, oh, that costs so much. Because you're not paying for all of the investment that I've made to become this good at doing it. And so that your watch comes back and it looks good and it works well. So that is why, folks. So I think the pivots are in there. I'm just checking, and what I do here now is I just rotate this gear just a bit, and I can see the pallet fork moving on the other side, so I'm good. Let me just tighten these up a bit, and I know I'm looking down at that stem in there and it's perfect. And those are tightened to snug. Snug is how they're tightened. So, and then the next thing I need to do, if I put the ratchet wheel in next, it comes in two pieces. So there it is there. And then this goes down like this. And I think that nice fancy stuff goes on the top, right? So that goes down like that, right? And there's the ratchet wheel screw. And this ratchet wheel screw goes in backwards. Yes, sirree, bub. Goes in backwards. Go figure, eh? And I got to get a big screwdriver to put this in properly, right? So I'm going to grab Mr. Green, okay? So I have to tighten it up the opposite way. So we'll go this way to tighten it, right? Let me see, righty tighty, lefty loosey. There we go. So that tightens this way, and I don't have to. I want to make sure it's snug but not over torqued. So you see how that's loose there? It's exactly what you want, right? And now I put in, and I might change this out because I think I'm going to, later on I'm going to go downstairs and buff that out because it looks terrible. I'm not sure why it looks so terrible. But I want to make sure the watch is functioning. So for now I'll just put it in nice and loose and not worry about it. So if I put it in like this and get the click spring out of the way. Oh, I need to use my needle, I think. Well, I can use this because it's so sharp on the end. It's perfect. So if I just put a little pressure on this and get the click spring out of the way here, like that, then this can fall into place. I think I'm one click away. I'm going to move this way, just one. There we go. And then that goes in like that against the barrel. So is that in all the way? I think so. Yeah, it sits down like this. That's nice and snug, but I just don't like the look of that. I have to look at it. Now you remember I had a hard time taking the screw out of this thing, right? It was like almost impossible. So I got to put this on top like that. And then the screw goes on top of that. I'm going to see if I can go down into my Frankenstein lab and buff that out. So that might be... I can't do that today because I'll have my wife all over me saying, why aren't we leaving yet? So I just screw that in nice and loosely, like that, so I can take that out later. And now I want to put a little bit of pressure on the mainspring. So just to make sure the pallet fork swings back and forth. So I just loosen that up a bit and rotate it so I can use my bench key there. And just put a little tiny bit of pressure. Now when I look down, just to make sure I'm not squishing, there it is there. You do not want to squish the setting lever for this watch, right? So grab a mainspring winder. I'm just praying here because if this doesn't work, I will have to get another mainspring. Okay, that's working. And now if you look, I'm going to go really close here because this is one of the last things I'm going to do before packing it up for the day. And I am going to tap the pallet fork. And if that pallet fork snaps back and forth, you can see it on the video. I'm in business. And it is. You see how that's snapping back and forth? That is what I call good stuff, folks. Now I can snap that a few times to make sure that the oil I put on the pallet fork jewels is spreading to the feet a bit of the escapement. And that's going to give me better amplitude. Now if I was really brave, I'd just throw the just to make sure everything is contained, I can throw the balance staff back in, like the balance back in, and see it running and look at what's going on and then take it off after, because I'm gonna, do I want to do that or not? That's the question. So I don't think I will. So I think I'll just leave a little bit of tension on the mainspring here like I have. And I don't know why this looks so bad. I just don't know why. You guys out there can tell me. Now I had to put this into an ultrasonic cleaner. So is it cavitation that caused it or what? Because I think that I can see the design in the metal in the bottom. So I should be able to buff this out. If this is one piece, solid piece of metal, then there's no reason why I couldn't buff that out, right? I'm rubbing it with Rodico just to see if there's a difference, a marginal difference on it. It doesn't look like it, but I'll see anyway. So, and I'll have to look at the original picture to see what it looked like originally. So worst case scenario is if the owner cares about it, I can replace this. I try to find another one of these and then replace that. Should be nice. I hate leaving it in this condition, so I think the best thing for me to do is get that under my buffing and then buff the heck out of it. So that's good for now. I'm getting a little tired anyway. So what I'll do is I'll get all this back into some watch containers, and I've got some of the parts already that are kind of loosey-goosey, so I'll put those back into these watch containers here to make sure I don't lose anything. And so far so good. Like functionally it's working, which is nice. I just want to clean up the ratchet wheel on here, and so it doesn't look the way it looks, right? I'm just grabbing the hands right now. The hands! Just back up a little bit here. I'm just grabbing some of the hands here to put these into the container, and all this stuff goes into a safe, right? So I don't leave any of this out. If I'm not in town, it goes into a safe, so it's relatively secure. And then I'll make sure the Apple find my part. I just want to keep that away from the other stuff here. Make sure this is in here too. So it'll go like that. And then for this here, I'm going to grab another one. Let me see. I got like a million cases here, but I'm going to grab another one that fits. Is that good? Yeah. I'm going to grab another one. You just move that over so you can see I'm recording a lot today. Yeah, grabbed another one of these. I got like a ton of cases. I probably have, oh, I don't know, probably 15 of these watch cases, depending on how busy I am. And I put the whole, I know I can fit the whole damn thing in here, right? So put all that in there so I can go away. I can cover that up now. And then I've got the escapement over here. As you recall, the escapements are right here, and I'll put that in the safe too. And I'll just put the cover on it because I had the cover on the escapement. And that way I can complete this watch later under the safety. The safety. So that's it for this video. This is part 2. And part 3, I'll reassemble, clean the balance and reassemble it, and away we go.